All right. We're not going to do video because I'm driving and it's late, but I'm listening to the radio station, and there is a pastor talking, a Christian radio station, and there's a pastor talking about President Trump, Christian child tax credit, etc. And he was seeking pledges for something. And first, let me tell you, this station, hang on, this live is very informal. All right, this channel that I have here, it's not as polished, let's say, as some of others. I just want to talk. I just want to voice my mind. I don't want to do no super produced video or anything at this time. So to continue on, this pastor, I caught the program about 2/3 in, and he's talking about how many people are wanting President Trump to hurry up and come back and save the country, and how Obama was bad and Biden is so much worse, and how they're giving away money. He talked about the child tax credit, how much it was, and that it goes to lower income families or people that fit certain tax brackets. They used the word lower income. They actually said that lower to lower middle income is what they said, and they then went on to say a lot of people are not working because they're getting this money. And I just think that was really short-sighted to say that. A few of the things they said, I was like, it amazed me because I listen to all types of shows. I listen to Republican radio, Democrat radio, Christian radio, YouTube, videos or whatever. Like, I'm driving, so I'm trying to maximize my time, right? And I like to get both sides of thoughts and such. And I listen a lot to these political parties, let's say party shows, where there are a lot of Republican, a lot of Democrat, whatever show, station I'm listening to. And everyone is so finger pointing, even like the Democratic Christian. Actually, I don't know too many Democratic Christian shows that are out there. But trust me, there are lots of Democrats that are Christians. Wow, I'm trying to think of a show. But anyhow, everyone is always so finger pointing. I won't say everyone. Let me not be short-sighted. I've listened to plenty of people not try and put their opinions in their message of Christ. I've listened to people give their message and then mention, and not even like a pastor, but just radio show hosts speaking. And then they will mention there are some that could use it, but there are, the system needs to change. So there is some of that. But it just irks me because I hear so much and so often, and so many people just pounding the other side. Like there's only two sides of the country, you're Democrat or you're Republican, and that's it. Pounding the fact that, independents or just pounding the people that do choose to sit at home and not work, pounding them, but including the people that actually are benefiting and taking advantage of the child tax credit or of the welfare system so that they can get on their feet. And I know many people that have spent time in the welfare system at one point or another and got out. And I know people that have stayed in. I know people that don't want to work because they're in the system, and if they make just a little bit too much, then they won't get that support and they won't make enough to live. So they're like in a rock and a hard place, and they need a booster to kind of get out of that. One, they need something to get out of that mentality. But once they start to make enough where they don't qualify for those social services, but they don't make enough to really live on their own, that's when they need a booster to get them over that hump. And, maybe it's about timing. Use tax money if you can get it, something to that effect. And it's also the reality of human beings. It's difficult to choose the right thing. It really is. And if you're Christian, that's Adam and Eve. God told them. They knew what the right thing was. Something that just popped in my mind, I'm going to segue or whatever, talk about it. It came to my mind. I often suggest to people to pray to God naked in their own home alone, just like be alone, step out of the shower, whatever. Kneel and pray to God naked as if you would when you're clothed. I've done it. Everyone, when I say it, they're like, "Oh, that's so." Ooh. But the reason that I suggest people do it is because it is truly humbling. So we put on these clothes, we look good, we feel good, and sometimes we kind of got a chip on our shoulders talking to God. You can have a chip on your shoulders talking to the one that created everything. I'm not I'm not innocent of it. And we may not even realize it. But when you go naked, oh man, and let me tell you, it's not disrespectful. Because in the garden, Adam and Eve were naked. Remember the scene where God comes after Eve, took by the apple, passed around, etc. God comes in the garden and they run and hide. And he says, "Why are you hiding?" And they say, "Because we're naked." He's like, "Who told you you're naked?" Boom, we were naked before God, man. So it's so humbling to do that. It's just, I don't know. So to go back to what the subject of this video is about, I just want to tell Christians that are Republicans, not every Christian has to vote Republican. And we don't have to be divisive. Like, really, that he who is without sin cast the first stone. The problem is not so much in the people, it's in our nature, it's in the system, it's in not enough people being in place and willing to do what is right more times than not. I think those are the key things. If we see that the welfare system is helpful, but we know also it could be bad, right? Just like eating sweet fruit. It's helpful to you. But too many of those, well, it's going to be bad. All right, I'm going to go on to something about that later. But this welfare system is helpful to some. However, some people become complacent, and then they don't want to get out of it. Some people become trapped. Like as a child, that may be all that you see, and you think that that's what life is. Grow up, work a little job, get in the welfare system, or don't work, and then do whatever just day to day, and then die. All right. I watched a video where some kids in the inner city, they never had even seen fresh fruit. This was in New York. The guy was eating his lunch at like a Quickie Mart or something, and the kid was like, "What's that?" And he told him, I think a melon, some kind of melon, and the kid had never seen it. So the guy started bringing in fresh fruit. That's because in those places, they don't have those type of things, man. Watch shows on it. Like, seriously. That's why snacks and stuff, they be really cheap down there, and people get hooked on it. Okay, side, I'm all over the place because there's a lot going on in my life. But I just heard this, and I had to talk about it. I'm like, why not do the YouTube live? Why not? All right, so check it out. Welfare, to get out, you need to make a jump over a certain income, like a jump. Or, it's not just, okay, I make enough, now I'm out, and then I can support myself. And my wife, her parents were in like lower middle class, and they didn't have quite enough to pay for school, but not enough to get it for free as far as college. So it was stressful. I believe that a lot of people have identified, but maybe the government's not listening, or they don't want to hear or fix the problem. That's the problem. Make it easier. There are things, programs in welfare system that helps you like buy a home and stuff like that. But again, it's still that stretch, man, that jump of, okay, I'm making more money, but not quite enough to take care of myself the way I was when I was making less money and getting all that support. So people want what they want, and they may want to take care of themselves, and they can't visualize making that jump. They can't visualize a $10,000 a year increase somewhere. So they are scared, and they're going to, default to what they know works and allows them to live comfortably. Which takes me to another thought, and it's, a lot of us don't want to give up the comforts of life, so to speak. But maybe, as an individual in that position and seeing that it's not going to be rectified anytime soon, as far as, some help getting over that jump, maybe I need to completely downsize, completely change, and like reduce everything so that I can then use that money that I'm saving and all that downsizing. That becomes then my hurdle. So it might be 2 years, 3 years of downsizing. Now I've saved that money, and then I can buy a home and, whatever might need to be done, and I can like increase my income more. That could be it. But let's think about it. People don't want to. They don't want to do that. And someone can talk about them and say, "Oh, they're lazy," but they're scared. And who wants to like reduce their lifestyle? It's hard to do as well. We don't know situations, how many kids you might have. Or, maybe in order to reduce your lifestyle, you might have to move to like the severe ghetto or the ghetto's ghetto, and that's dangerous. And you don't want to do that. The schools are going to be worse. So all these other variables. So, as a parent, you might say, "Well, I don't know how to get over this hurdle. Going back to school, can't do it with the kids, etc. So I'm kind of stuck at this level, and my kids can get out of it. I'm going to push them to go to school, or they'll qualify for free school instead of having to go to this next level. They won't qualify for school. They can't, as far as college, they can't get into college, and then the parent has to work themselves to death to try and get to college, or kid goes into so much debt. Like these are serious things that need to be considered. So this parent may say, we'll just have to wait a generation, so to speak, and try and help the kid to get there. And you'll see a lot of kids now, professionals, have been in that boat. They grew up on welfare, and now they're a professional because they don't even recognize it like this, but it's because they were able to get schooling, get these special programs, etc. And the parents did the best they could. The parents may not have stayed under that threshold on purpose, but those are just, that's just the way that it panned out, maybe because their fear or multiple other, reasons. But I had to talk about that because I think the problem is not being identified, right? And too many Christians are angry and closed-minded if you're going to be a Christian about it. And the country itself is too divided with Democrat, Republican, this way or that way. No, I think that the problem even comes in with our Constitution, talking about God's laws, but then freedom of X, Y, Z. That's kind of a conundrum right there. All right, because let's say you're gonna put it's a tough thing to do. And before I even go on, I want to say that this pastor on the radio talked about President Biden, and then he said he's not my president. And I think that is a divisive comment. Look, man, when someone is elected in, they're president. There's so many presidents I didn't vote for. So according to that standard, I could say the same thing. But no, I'm a believer in the Constitution, the system, everything else. Once it's done, that's my president, period, until that president is voted out. So I had to talk about that. But yeah, something in our Constitution that talks about like freedom of choice and things of that nature. Abortion. It's like for the government to say you can and can't have abortion, or certain drugs, you can and can't have drugs. But then God talks about, God is like, you should be free, right? You make a choice. I think the liberties, and even the Constitution was talking about liberty, inalienable rights, and everything else, but then they want to turn around and take them away in the name of something else. In the name of peace, we're going to close up these rights. In the name of freedom, we're going to close up these rights. We don't want to offend someone. We're going to close up these rights, open these rights. It's a big pile of, watch it, okay, quicksand. And I don't have a lot of time to go too into it with everything, but I think I've covered a lot. It gives a lot to think about, and the Constitution is deep and is great. God's laws and everything is great, but he talks about obey the law of the land, right? So we need to stay our course if we're trying to change a law, and until it's changed, we need to obey it unless it conflicts with God's law. And people need to study God's law in order to know it. But not enough people study. Even those that go to church, they may not study. And I mean study. I can guarantee you most people study harder for their degree at work than they do, or for even their job entry exam or the SATs, than they have for their salvation when it comes to Christianity. And I don't mean passing tests, but I mean studying it every day. Certain industries, you got to get recertified. Well, how many of us could get recertified in our Christianity? And by that, I mean, do we study all the time, and do we know it? When someone, walks up to us and they're in a situation of, I don't know, needing advice. If we studied the Word of God, we should be able to pull out the Word of God in our mind and use our heart and the Spirit, which leads you into all truth, and then be able to find a verse that can relate to that person, and maybe something, if we're educated enough, something from the world that that person can relate to, and intertwine them, right, and be feeding them that gospel. If we can't do that, we're not really working, I think, as Christians. I hear a lot of people, put up quotes from people. I see people put up quotes and stuff, and that's great. At one point, what I would do is take that quote, find it in the Bible, and then put it back, like post it again, saying, hey, nothing new under the sun. So we as Christians need to be able to be in the world and not of it. Don't let this divisiveness that people in the same political party have, but may not have the same affiliation, or even if they're Christian, because you have to study to show yourself approved, 2 Timothy 2:15. And my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, as it says in Hosea 4:6. When you can do something like that and understand that the human heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, as it says in Jeremiah, I just forgot the verse, it just kicked out of my head, but we are to speak love, kindness, joy, not joy, that's a little different, but we're to speak love and kindness and a few other things, good stuff. God always says, speak good stuff to people. Never says, go and tell somebody how horrible they are. No, it's supposed to be good stuff. Find the good, find a way to be creative with what we're going to say that also encourages and lifts up others. And as an example, before I go, something along the lines of this child tax credit. A lot of people here, I'm going to take what I heard in the radio show, which was Christian, and see if I can just off the top of my head, twist it into what they were trying to say, I think, in something positive. Hold on, let me get a sip of water. Okay, so how about there are so many people that believe President Trump can do a better job than what President Biden is doing. And yeah, that's good. Instead of people wanting a savior, why would you even say that? So there are so many people that believe President Trump can do a better job than President Biden can do, and they can't wait for the next election so they can get out there and cast their vote. Oh, there we go. And there are so many people that are able to use this child tax credit to help them. But unfortunately, it seems to be more people out there that are taking advantage of this child tax credit, and that's hurting them. And, God says to work as you are able. For those people that are able to work, then, they really need to get out there. But not everyone is a Christian and holds themselves to these values. And, we understand that. So as Christians, we have to, encourage each other to go out there and work to make sure we're not complacent. But we also have to help those that are really taking advantage of this, as we're supposed to help the poor and those in need. And, let God sort out the vengeance, if you will, or the injustice that's occurring by those not working, because he is the one that gets the revenge, and he's the one that sets it straight, and he's in control of everything. He tells us what to do, and that's to show love first, which is why he died on the cross for our sins without asking for anything in return. Before anything, he said, I'm going to go and die for you first. Now, if you wish to receive the kingdom of heaven, then you have to believe in me. He did it first, though. He didn't say, tell you what, if you believe, then I'll go die on the cross. No, he didn't do that. And he tells us to go out and feed the poor, not even wait for the poor to come to you. He don't say wait. He says, go out, go, and you'll know me by my fruits. And if we as Christians are bearing the kind of fruit of finger pointing and bucketing those who are in need with those who are abusive to the benefit, well, I think we need to consider the fact that our behavior is not even becoming of a Christian, and we need to identify the problem and focus on the solution, and then pray for others and help those that need it. See if we can target even more so, perhaps incentivize, something to that effect. If we can do this, surely our country can stand strong and united, and we can respect each other as we move forward. That, I think, would be something that could have been, said and uplifting, but it wasn't that way. I tell you what, always return kindness, right? That's our loyalty. And if we did that one by one, that would be great. But what's the missing part? You got to show love first. Because if you always return kindness, but no one is showing love, you have no kindness to return, right? But you don't show love first so that you can get kindness back. You do it because you're supposed to just show love first, as Jesus did, as we're supposed to do as people. It's in, we know it. We know what the right thing to do is, and that's to show love first. And that's why we kind of feel like we should return it back, pay it forward, some would say. But no, because payment is expecting something in return. See, you just need to show love first. And love is only a 4-letter word, but it covers a lot, right? How many people use 4-letter words to cover a variety of feelings? And that's how love is, a 4-letter word, and it covers so much. It's so deep. It's crazy how deep it is. But we need to show love first, and then one by one opportunity, one individual, one situation, whatever it is, always return kindness. Remembering, return that kindness, remembering that love was shown to you first. It's really simple. It's really simple. But I'd like to say again, don't pay it forward because that's expecting something in return. Just show love first. Don't wait for someone. Don't look around. If you see a whole bunch of people standing around and someone needs help, something fell on them, you just show love first. I love the stories where people like lifted up a car and, you know, saved a lady, and everyone just came together. 9/11, things like when people just come together. That's the everyday walk of a Christian, of a good human being. You're almost
I just want the world to know.
show love first, one by one, always return kindness. That's our loyalty, and that's what we need. And, you know, that's what I try and practice. Although I ain't gonna lie, I'm not perfect. All right, everybody, peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for tuning in or watching it, whatever it might be. I didn't test it. Hopefully you can hear me good.